I'm Jeannie Shepard, and I was introduced to Barbara Collier in 2016. And at the time, Barbara was working here at the office as a psychotherapist and was trying to incorporate horses in her work. And when she met me, she was really interested in the way that I approached horses and the way that I worked with them and with their humans. And she asked me if I would be interested in partnering up with her and helping her expand her horse work with her clients. And that was exactly what I was looking for, so I was thrilled that she asked me. And so we began our journey together. And in 2017, this became Equanimity, a nonprofit for working with trauma and incorporating the horses in the work. So it's been my pleasure and my honor to be with this herd as it grew. We started with 2 horses, Epona, or Freedom and Blue were the ones that came with Barbara and I. And from there, our herd grew. And so it's been my job to take care of the horses and train the volunteers who help take care of the horses. And in over 50 years of being with horses, I've come with a lot of various experiences. And because of my history with horses, I had a lot of confidence and a lot of different skills that I'd picked up from different teachers over the years. The best teachers, of course, are the horses. But before I came to Tucson, I had never met a horse that was over 30. And so I've really learned a lot. We have a herd here. The horse behind me is 35 years old right now. And the pony beside him is somewhere between 35 and 40, with his gray face. But we also have a quarter horse here who is 42. And even our vet had said he had never worked with a horse that old. But these guys are very healthy. Their hair coats are shiny. They're happy. Their diet is really sufficient for them, and they're just doing really well. So everybody is in awe that we have these aged horses who are doing so well. So we're going to get into a lot of things later on about why that can be true, but I really believe that the desert climate is really healthy for horses because, like I said, where I came from out east, there wasn't any horses that lived. I mean, my oldest horse lived to be 25, I think, and everybody thought that was ancient. So that's not the way I think anymore. So we also have, in our herd, we also have a horse who's 23 and one who's 25. And I think our Mustang is 15 this year. So we've got a pretty wide scope of ages. But the work we do, it's really good to have horses who have had life experiences that cause them to be more, in human terms, more empathetic and more caring for humans. And they really seem to step into roles that almost coincide with what their life experiences may have been. We have horses who really reach out more to people in grief, others who reach out to various trauma situations. So it's really interesting to watch the way they kind of move into their roles, and they trade off and on sometimes because they have multiple abilities. So I just want to express that as I proceed to break down these categories into the components of longevity, I need you to be aware that these pieces of information are based on decades of experience and working with literally hundreds of horses, and some are intuitively brought forward. So anything I say is not definitely scientifically based, but I think that my experiences carry um, a lot of strength and a lot of wisdom, and I just want to share that with anybody who wants to help their horses live longer. Thank you. So our first class is on nutrition, and I want to reiterate the fact that none of these things are scientifically based. They're all based on my own experiences over the last 6 decades with horses. So, as a 12-year-old, when I got my first horse, she was only one, and nutrition was not my top priority. Um, I was lucky to be out in the country, and she was in a big area where she had plenty of room to move, and she had natural grazing, apple trees. She could eat apples if she liked. And so she was supplemented occasionally with some hay and once in a while a bag of pelleted feed, but she seemed to thrive. And because at that time, we couldn't afford to have a vet come out and check on her all the time. So if, nobody told us we were doing things wrong. And she lived to be a lovely mare who had 5 foals for me. So those foals all taught me different things about nutrition, as well as later on when I was able to get into breeding horses, and I had brood mares. Those mares and their foals taught me even more about the value of good nutrition and the various needs of different horses, because just like with humans, we all have a different kind of a system that requires different nutrients. And so those things became more part of my natural way of dealing with the nutrition needs of the horses. And I was able to become aware that a good nutrition, based on a lot of the things that I had learned about human nutrition, it kind of bled over into taking care of horses. And I was able to learn about the value of herbs and things from my grandmother, so it was a natural transition for me. And so being able to incorporate that in their diets was very helpful, and I learned a lot of different things that helped in specific situations. So all the lessons that I learned from the horses, sometimes it was really hard when I had a tendency to learn things the hard way, but when the lessons are hard, you don't forget what you could have done differently. So I've learned a lot of really good lessons from horses over the years. They're my best teachers. In class number 2, we're going to talk about hoof care. And back in the 70s and 80s, there wasn't much information about the value of hoof care, because everybody thought that you just tack shoes on a horse and you'll protect their feet. And that was pretty common because it was thought that you were protecting their feet, just as we think we're protecting our feet by wearing shoes. But just as it's possible to do more damage to your own body by wearing specific types of heels or shoes that cramp your feet, horses can be caused to have more problems with their bodies by having shoes that aren't properly installed, or trimmings that aren't done properly. So eventually there were more people who started studying why horses in the wild had such beautiful feet. And so when those studies were brought into the schools and the universities, uh, they started to realize that the natural way of going was much better than tacking on shoes to just protect the feet. Once I started to tap into those resources and follow those more natural practices, the horses were much healthier and happier going barefoot. So in class 3, we're going to talk about dental care, which is one of those major three. Hoof care, dental care, and skeletal care are really important. So dental care is another area that has a lot of different approaches and a lot of different opinions about how dental care should be approached. And most of my comments in here will be based on personal experiences and what my teachers and mentors have shared with me. I've had a little bit of training in this regard, but not extensively enough to talk about specific teeth or what the dynamics are in the roles that each tooth plays. But I have a really good general sense of what comprises good care of teeth. So class 4, the skeletal care. It's funny because over the years, especially when I was in barrel racing, I had a chiropractor that would come and work on the horses regularly. And people would say, "You have a chiropractor for horses?" And even today, people ask me that question. And the answer is yes. We have chiropractors, osteopaths, massage therapists, equine touch practitioners, Reiki practitioners. The list goes on and on, just as it is with humans. Horses' skeletal systems are surprisingly similar to ours, and they can and do require adjusting and balancing to relieve discomfort, repair damage from illness or injury. And I will cover as much as I possibly can due to my own experiences. In class 5, we talk about housekeeping for horsekeeping. So housekeeping sounds like kind of a strange description for taking care of horses, because obviously they don't live in houses, but it comprises a variety of things that are involved in how the horse lives its daily life. And it's really important to have horses in areas where they can move around, and outside stresses like traffic and high tension wires and internet towers. Those things all affect horses the same way they do humans. So the housekeeping can evolve into things like whether or not we vaccinate, whether or not we use deworming. There's a wide variety of things that we'll talk about in class number 5. In class number 6, we'll talk about alternative therapies, which is something that I have been studying from the human realm and transferring it to the horse realm for decades. This covers, in my situation, it covers homeopathy, essential oils, Bach flower remedies. There's other types of remedies besides Bach flowers, but those are the ones that I'm most familiar with. Different types of body work, red light, herbal teas, herbs added to their feed. This covers a pretty wide range that can affect a horse's well-being. And in my studies, both human and equine, I've become convinced that if we are diligent enough in knowing what behaviors are normal in our horses, we can easily and inexpensively help them get back in balance when they begin to show signs of discomfort or change their eating habits or display behaviors that are not normal. Horses are pretty good at displaying abnormalities if we pay attention. course, they can't speak English, but they speak through their bodies. And if we know our horses, we can pay attention to what the changes in behavior can tell us. So also, when an injury occurs, if we have a little bit of knowledge about various alternative therapies, we can either treat the horse successfully and not have to call a vet, or we can keep the horse more comfortable while we wait for the vet to arrive. So in class number 7, we'll talk about our ease modules and the ease sessions that I do with the horses, and the Heart Map company, which is a company that started decades ago. In EASE, it stands for Equine Assisted Somatic Experiencing. And because horses share the same nervous system and the same skeletal system as we do, there's quite a few things that can be incorporated in working with horses that help people who are in trauma or relational challenges. So the ease modules and the ease sessions that I do are going to be touched on quite a bit in class number 7. And then Heart Math is based on the electromagnetic field of our heart that we share with horses. Only horses have an electromagnetic field that extends out 5 to 10 times greater than ours. And that's a real key part in sensing, being able to sense things that are happening farther away from your body. So I'm excited to cover those things.